भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 57, Text number 5. Chapter entitled Satrajit murdered, the jewel returned. एवं भिन्ना मति ताभ्यं सत्राजितम् असत्तमः शयानम् अवदीत् लोभा स पापः क्षीण जीवितः। एवं भिन्नमतिस्ताभ्यां सत्राजितम् असत्तमः शयानम् अवधिलोभा स पापक्षीण जीवितः। एवं भिन्नमतिस्ताभ्यां सत्राजितम् असत्तमः शयानम् अवधिलोभा स पापक्षीण जीवितः। एवं भिन्नमतिस्ताभ्यां सत्राजितम् असत्तमः शयानम् अवधिलोभा स पापक्षीण जीवितः। सत्राजिता सत्तमः शयानम् अवधिलोभा स पापक्षीण जीवितः। एवं भिन्नमतिस्ताभ्यां सत्राजिता सत्तमः शयानम् अवधिलोभा स पापक्षीण जीवितः। एवं भिन्नमतिस्ताभ्यां स्वपापक्षीण जीवितः। माताजी। एवं भिन्नमतिस्ताभ्यां सत्राजितम् असत्तमः शयानम् अवधिलोभा स्वपापक्षीण जीवितः। एवं 10 भिन्न affected matihi whose mind tabhyam by the two of them satrajitam satrajit asattamah the most wicked shayanam sleeping Avadhi, killed. Lobha, out of greed. Saha, he. Papaha, sinful. Shina, diminished. Jivitaha, whose lifespan. Translation and purport by the disciples of Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation: his mind, thus influenced by the advice, wicked Shatadhanva murdered Satrajit in his sleep simply out of greed. In this way, the sinful Shatadhanva shortened his own lifespan. Purport: according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the word Asattamaha indicates that Shatadhanva was basically evil-minded and a firm hater of Satrajit. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So as you all know that a conspiracy has been created to kill Satrajit, and Shatadhanva here mentions that he has murdered Satrajit, and the translation mentions that he murdered out of greed. And in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Shatadhanva was actually an evil-minded person and he hated Satrajit. So because he was evil-minded and he hated Satrajit, so he got an opportunity. He was instructed to kill, so he killed. Otherwise it would never happen. What is there in your mind will have to come out in action somewhere or the other. If he was not an evil-minded person and if he did not hate Satrajit, probably if anybody would have told him, he would have thought twice before he performed that act. It was like, he was given the sanction to kill, So this is how our mind actually works. We just have something in mind, and then when somebody tells us something, then we feel that it's approved, and then we perform that act, and then we put the thing on the person who mentioned. It may also extrapolate to some instructions that we may receive. Sometimes we may go on asking our authorities, different authorities, till we get to know, or we get an answer which is there in our mind, or probably which we want to do in our, and then we say, oh, this person told me to do it, that's why I did. But it's not the way. It may just happen that probably you wanted to do it, and you found a person who told you to do it, and you do it like that. So here we find Satyajit here, Shatadhanva, being evil-minded and out of greed. He actually would have killed Satyajit either way. But now he has received an instruction from, Kritavarma that he should kill. So he just went and killed him. And how did he kill? He killed him in his sleep. Like, a sane person would not do it, as Kshatriya also, whatever. You would not do it like that. Just someone who is asleep, and you kill him like that. So, what sort of a situation that one can be when one is under the influence of greed? As in Bhagavad Gita mentions that, Trivida narkasya dham. What is that? Nashana atmanam. There are three gates to hell. Kamas, Krodhas, Tata, Lobhas. That is lust, anger and greed. These are three gates to hell. When somebody is under the influence of lust, anger, greed, you cannot determine what the person will actually do. In Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that how a person intelligence is completely lost. Dhyayato vishyan pumsam sangaste supajayate sanga sanjayate kama kamas krodha lubhayate krodhat bhavatu sanjay krodhat bhavat sammoha sammoha smriti mibrava smriti bramshat buddhinasha pranashati. So once you are contemplating the objects of senses, you develop an attachment. Lust arises in the heart. When that is not fulfilled, anger, because of this bewilderment of memory, and then intelligence is lost. Then what you do, it may not be in your control. In a fit of anger, a person sometimes does say something or perform some acts, and then he repents afterwards. Many things life we see in day to day that are under the influence of anger, or maybe under the influence of lust, or under the influence of greed, a person can do or go to any extent to get those things done. As there is a saying, there's enough in this world for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. So, because the resources in the material world are limited, but the nature to enjoy is unlimited. You want to enjoy as much as possible. So out of greed, you try to do so many things which are not in accordance with the laws of nature. And it's mentioned that because of this, he shortened his lifespan. So it's said that anything that you do which is against the laws of nature will actually shorten your lifespan, because that is sinful. The Lord has given certain things that we are supposed to follow, and if you go against those laws, then what happens is that it becomes a sinful activity and your lifespan is shortened. That's why you find in the age of Kali Yuga, none of us will live our full life, because collectively and individually we are all responsible. Individually we also perform so many acts which are against the laws of nature, and collectively as a society also we perform so many things which are against the laws of nature. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 8th chapter and the 5th verse, there's a mention how Duryodhan and his brother Dushasan tried to disrobe Draupadi, and because of this particular act, their lifespan shortened. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that the society, for it to progress, it needs to take care of the 5 things. That's a principle. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that how that number 1 is the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are a person who are actually there to establish the principles of religion, establish Varnashrama in the society. And if they are not taken care of nicely, then the whole society goes into doldrums. Then the cows, the cows, they give us the miracle food, that's milk, which just, you know, um, sharpens our finer brain tissues to understand the spiritual subject matter. And then when one does not take care of the cows, protect the cows, then what happens? The society doesn't prosper. Then the women need to be protected, because in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun did not want to fight, because he was saying that if I kill all these people, then there will be women who will be unprotected, and because they are unprotected, Varna Sankara, people will exploit them. There will be unwanted population. So the women, they are like, they protect chastity of the society, and they are the ones who are really going to maintain the society by producing good children, and maybe giving the right culture, the samskaras for the next generation. So it's necessary that the women need to be protected. And then the children, because they need to protect it, because they can at least get a platform where they can prepare themselves to get liberated from this bondage. And the old people. Now old people, from point of view of contribution to society, they may not do anything. They may not even contribute a little aspect also. But they need to be protected, because by protecting them, the whatever they have experienced, or whatever they have assimilated throughout their life, they can transmit on to the generation which are present now. At the same time, by just protecting them, we are actually helping them to prepare for the next life. So it is said that Prabhupada mentions over there that any society which protects these five classes of people, then that society will progress like anything. But at the same time, if we don't do that, then he said the society will be completely in a mess. That's in a society. But individually, what happens? Individually, we also will be implicated in that. Your lifespan will be reduced. Everything will be. That's what is happening here. So, as a society, one needs to understand that these things have to be taken care of. As an institution, we need to take care of all these aspects. So, when these are taken care of, then the things are in the right place. We have to live a life of integrity. So, in order to prevent this aspect, then one has to live a life like that. Otherwise, our life will be full of conceit. One loses his integrity, one loses his character, one loses respect, truthfulness, honesty. All these are lost. Rupa Goswami mentions that if one has to become greedy, then one has to become greedy for Krishna. Elsewhere, different places where Prabhupada mentions that when one goes against the laws of nature, the lifespan shortens. Why? Because many things. That we don't offer respects to elders, not obeying the orders of the superiors, performing heinous acts, or sometimes blaspheming the devotees or blaspheming living entities also. Respecting other living entities, that's the most important aspect. When you respect someone else, then you actually you safeguard the culture of the society. But that is lost. Nowhere you find now that the younger generation respects the elder generation. It is said that the moment you disrespect any elder, then your lifespan actually reduces. It actually reduces if you disrespect your elders. But now that culture is slowly getting lost because of being independent, or it was not there at all earlier. You will find that earlier the children would come, bow down to the elders, would not argue. But now that argument is there. Why I should do this? Why I should not do this? But then that culture is slowly getting lost. But one needs to protect that culture If you protect the culture, then the society will progress. Otherwise, no way the society can go ahead. So it is said that you know the quality of life deteriorates, and else one place Srila Prabhupada mentions that what is the use of living a life like that when you are being just continuously performing all these particular activities which are against the natural laws. So we have to live a life of integrity, and we have to live a life where leaves behind a legacy for the next generation to follow. That's very important. Just recently, one of our dear god sisters, Mukhara Mataji, left her body, and when she left her body, her husband, I just happened to ask him one simple question. I said, "Can you tell me something about her?" So he started speaking then. He started speaking for almost like 20 minutes. And the essence of the whole discussion or his speaking about her was that she always respected all the devotees. She never criticized anyone. She never thought ill about anyone. Even if it means, like sometimes she's in charge of a particular service and somebody acted irresponsibly, or probably somebody, did not adhere to that punctuality or something like that. She never, thought anything about that person or why that person did not come or why. Never at any time. She said, okay, no, we have to do it. Maybe that person has something because of which the person has not come. So let me do the service. And she would personally go and do the service in the temple. And at any time she was very enthusiastic to serve Vaishnavas at any given point of time, in the night, in the day, middle of the night also. Sometimes there will be 50, 60 of them would come to her house and she would cook prasad in the middle of the night. At any given point of time, she would always be eager to serve. And serve without any discrimination. Not that, oh, this person is influential, I should give him more time and attention. That person is not, so maybe I'll look at him later on. No, nothing like that. It was that very eager to serve and very enthusiastic to do that particular activity. But one thing what I understood from that, this person, Mukhara Mataji, that she never criticized or she never thought ill about anyone. She always respected each and everyone. She offered so much of respect and she always dealt with everyone with that much of respect. And because of that, definitely she has got a higher destination. So this is what I was trying to remember, that such are the people who will leave behind a legacy for us to understand and for us to follow, like that. So if you just can avoid all these things as far as lives are concerned, then we'll much more better be engaged fully in Krishna conscious Vaishnavas. Today is a disappearance day of Srila Madhvacharya, and I was thinking that I should speak something about him for my own purification, though all of us know about this personality. In fact, we are all called as Brahma Madhya. We are all in the disciplic section of Brahma Madhya, Gaudiya, Sampradaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually took initiation in this Sampradaya because of two important principles that Madhvacharya actually advocated. One is the strict deity worship that he followed, and the second thing was strong refutation of Mayavad philosophy. So Chaitanya took two points from each of the four sampradayas, but then ultimately he took initiation from this particular sampradaya for these two aspects, because the nature of this material world and living entities that want to decry the existence of the Lord as a person, and rampant spread of the impersonalism and voidism. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to just establish this particular aspect, that the Lord is a person and he can be offered service as a person. So this aspect was taken into consideration, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually accepted initiation in this particular sampradaya, and that's why we are all called as Gaudiya Vaishnava, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So many aspects to learn from Madhvacharya's life. In fact, yes, we are all indebted to him for his contribution to the society. It is said that, at a time when there was a lot of, spread of imperialism and voidism existing in the, almost like 13th century, that time the demigods, they approached Lord Vishnu and they said, please do something because it's become so rampant. And Vishnu realized that it's not the time for Lord to incarnate. The time was not there. So when Lord Vishnu with the Brahmaji, of course demigods came with approach with Brahmaji, and then Lord Vishnu told them that I will send one of my representatives to re-establish these principles of Vaishnavism, and he ordered Vayudev to do that particular job. And he said that in a place called as Pajakshetra, there was a great Brahmana, his name was Madhyagya Bhatt, and it is said that he was so simple at heart, very devotional, and would travel every day from his place Pajakshetra to Udupi at Ananteshwar temple to take darshan. And seems on a particular day in Makar Sankranti, one man, he just immediately climbed up the flag post and started shouting that there will be soon a person who will be born here who will be there to defeat these impersonalist ideas and then establish these principles of, dharma, Vaishnava dharma. And he shouted so early, everyone gathered, they heard, and everyone disappeared. And Madhyagya Bhatt was also there. But little did he realize that the person whom he was talking about was a person who is going to be his son in due course of time. So after he got married to Vedavati, they desired to have a son who can be a very good Vaishnava. And because of this, he performed penance for almost like 12 years. You can imagine, to have a good son to perform austerities for 12 years, that means so much they wanted to have a son for that. Like so much of preparations that they were ready to do just to have that. And when the right time came, Vayudev entered the womb of Vedavati, and then the child was born. And when the astrologers saw the child's horoscope, they found that he had all those 32 auspicious characteristics which are needed to found in a great personality. And then he proclaimed that this person is going to do something very revolutionary and is going to do something which no one has done up till then. And then he gave him the name Vasudev. And the Vasudev, as when he was small also, he would just, would exhibit so many characteristics which was something not ordinary, it was extraordinary, you can say. It said on her 40th day, when the mother took the child to Ananteshwar temple for darshan, on the way home they had to pass through the jungle back because it's like a 12-kilometer distance from Pajakshetra to Udupi. And it is said that on the way a Brahma Rakshas, haunted one of those people accompanying them. And however well Madhyagya Bhatt tried to chant mantras and sprinkle water on the body of that person who was being haunted by that Brahma Rakshas, the Brahma Rakshas would not go. He just completely fell down unconscious. So it is said that at that time the Brahma Rakshas started speaking through him and said, I know that this personality is a very great personality and I will be liberated from this body of this person only if you allow me to touch, or if you make the lotus feet of this child to touch my head of this person. And they touched him, and suddenly the Brahma Rakshas left that place. And as Yashoda would always take care of Mother Yashoda take care of the child Krishna when he was in danger, So both Madhyagya Bhatt and Vedavati were thinking that maybe we should take care of our child, because so many things, elements are there which can just trouble our child, So they would perform so many, rituals just to see that the child is protected. When he was small, it seems like he was very hungry, mother was not there, and he was crying for food. And the sister somehow or the other could not find anything, but just found some grains around, so that which were supposed to be given to the cows. And she just got one big sack of grains and opened some little and gave it to her. And meanwhile, she just went outside to do something. By the time came back, the child had finished off the entire 40 kgs of grain completely. So this was really astonishing for the sister and the mother also. They were wondering what's happened, because they never thought that something like this would be done. So it said that they performed what is called as Dhanvantri Shanti Shukta prayers. They started chanting just so that the child's health should be all right. Because someone consuming so much, at that age, mother would definitely feel that the child would have indigestion or probably have problems. So they started chanting very frantically Dhanvantari Shanti Shukta prayers so that the child can be safe and healthy. And he would do such feats. One day it seems in their absence, he just caught the tail of a bull, and the bull, being afraid of that, started running around. And all throughout the bull was running, but the child did not leave the tail of the bull. So till evening, it seems the child was just moving around with the bull, holding the tail. Such was his strength. The bull was moving around here and there, but the child would just be there. So when he grew a little older, it said that once when he was requesting his father to come for prasad inside, the father was sitting out at the doorstep. The father explained to the son that today I cannot, because I have a loan to repay to one person, Kakra Shetty, and because I am not able to repay, he's come here. He says he is insisting that he wants the money today itself, and since I cannot give him, I am fasting like him, because he's also sitting there, I am also sitting, because he's not going till I give him the money, and I don't have money, so I can't do anything, so I'm just sitting. Oh, is that so? That much? Don't worry. And he just went to the courtyard, he just got some tamarind seeds, and he just went to this Kakra Shetty. He said, just open your hands and take this tamarind seeds. With so much of innocence, he just told him to take the tamarind seeds. He actually accepted it, but the moment he accepted it, those tamarind seeds turned into gold coins. Enough or much more than what he had actually had, the father had owed him. So happily he just, went away. Second time when he came back, that time he gave him law of God. That's what is mentioned. And at this point, I just want to share something which our dear God brother Shubhavilas Prabhu shared when we had been to Udupi at Pajaka Kshetra. Very nice, informative thing that he shared with us. He said that tamarind seeds are what? Like, nobody has, tamarind seeds they don't have any value. No value at all, except that you can play with them. Nowadays, nobody plays also. Everyone have video games to play. But in earlier days, like if you have tamarind seeds, you eat the outer ones, the thing which is the fruit, but the inside seed, you don't do anything. They're useless. They are just thrown away on the ground. Only the children, they'll pick up those tamarind seeds and probably they play with them, So they are useless actually. So you are saying that, all of us are like those tamarind seeds. We are like useless. Basically, we are useless, She said, but when we come under the influence or under the shelter of a spiritual master, we also have a lot of rin. We have a lot of debt that we owe to our, predecessor acharyas for performing some services. So individually, if you see, we are all like tamarind seeds. But when we take shelter of a spiritual master, then the spiritual master, uses us and then converts us into valuable objects which can be offered to our spiritual predecessors, and thus absolve us from all the debts that we have towards them. So the tamarind seeds are like us, and the Madhacharya, like as Vasudev, like a spiritual master, and Kakrashit is like those acharyas whom we owe. And as soon as we are engaged under, or we are under that shelter of spiritual master, we are converted, and then we can become wonderful instruments. So it's not our glory, it's the glory of the spiritual master who makes us do that. Just like the tamarind seeds had no value, but then when Vasudev went there and gave those tamarind seeds became gold coins. So that's the way we look at it. It said that there is a Parvat called as Bhimangiri, where there's Durga temple, and Vasudev, when he was small, he would always go there and play for hours and hours and hours, and said that he would be appearing to be playing alone, but then Durga Devi would be there, would be always there playing, assisting him in the play. So this is what he would be doing. And when the time came for Vidyarambha ceremony, where he needed to write, that's one of the samskaras that a child is made to write. So the moment he was made to write, he started writing on his own, So they are all shocked how he is able to do that. He said, I know everything, all this. I don't need to, write again and again. Sometimes the mother makes the child write A again and again. He says, I know all this. So he would write all the letters on his own. So he says, instinctively, he said, I know everything. Not so much difficulty, like that. So this is how he would be. And then it said that, he was so smart and so intelligent that he would just pick up things like anything. And then when his father would take them to some discourses, and he would hear a speaker speaking something which is against the injunctions of the Shastras, he would immediately get up and challenge the person and say that you are not speaking according to scriptures. He was just like a 4-year-old child. And then this would insult the speaker, and the speaker would say, okay, why don't you explain? And then he would explain in such a way that it would mesmerize everyone, and everyone would be attracted. How this boy knows. Once his father sat down for a class, and father was giving a class, and he was giving a purport, and was explaining the different trees, the Tulsi tree, the banyan tree, but he was avoiding the likucha tree. He did not know himself, so he did not speak about it. So then Vasudev got up, he said, you are not speaking Bhagavatam, because you are not explaining what is there in the Shastra. So the father accepted. He said, I don't know the meaning of likucha. He says, so you have no right to speak Bhagavatam if you cannot say that. And then he said, likucha means a lime tree. So the father did not know what is likucha, so he conveniently avoided. He explained everything. He says, you are not presenting the Bhagavatam in totality, so you cannot speak. So like that, he would never, he cannot tolerate anyone speaking anything else, but then just conform it with Shastras, one thing, and trying to imply to this particular act that how only when somebody has understood Shastra he should speak, not that just speak because you have to speak, like that. So, and then a time came when the father decided he should be given an Upanayan samskar. Normally it's done at the age of 8, but at the age of 5 only he decided that I should do that for him. And the samskar was done, and it seems the child picked up all the shlokas to be needed to be learned immediately. It was not that, the moment it was told to him, on that particular moment only the child learned everything. So this was quite amazing how the child learnt, much to the astonishment of all those who were present. And said that after the samskara, when they were walking back, they were confronted by the Maniman demon, who at the time of Dwapar Yuga was killed by Bhima. and she wanted to take revenge. So he again took birth. He was here, appeared here. He wanted to somehow or the other, kill Madhvacharya, Vasudeva, the child. So when he attacked, and tried to bite him, it did not affect him at all. On the contrary, Vasudeva just held him, and with the toe, he just crushed the Maniman demon completely. And this place is still there for us all of us to see that place. And the next moment, when the mother found that he is nowhere around, called for the child, the child jumped. In one leap, he just reached his house. So that's how he would do all these activities. So, and his childhood pastimes would be like, he would invite everyone to wrestle with him. And he would not wrestle with the children of his age. Elderly boys, tough boys, he would just wrestle. He said, wrestle with me, and he would just defeat them very easily. Till he doesn't leave them, they cannot leave his grip. It was like that, So that's how you would do. And then he was sent to a teacher to learn. And it was so happening that whenever the teacher would learn, he would just leave the house, he would leave the place, go home, and very slowly he'll come back. So once his teacher asked him, he said, you don't want to learn or what? Why are you going there? How will you learn if you don't sit in the class? He says, you are repeating so many things. I already know whatever you have told me. So if you had told me, you would tell me. Repeat. And he would repeat everything what the teacher had taught. And that would astonish the teacher, because the child would just remember everything what was taught to him at once. And at that time, he just memorized the Aitreya Upanishad, which are the verses glorifying the Lord's name, form, pastimes, everything. And that became one of his favorites. Like wherever he would go, he would always chant from those Aitreya Upanishad, glorifying the wonderful qualities of the Lord. And that's the time he actually, in his mind, he decided that, a time has come for me to just fulfill the mission for which I have come here. And because of strong desire in him to do that, it made him connected to his guru, who would later on become his guru. There is Achyuta Preksha. So when Achyuta Preksha was near Ananteshwar temple in his own mud, and Vasudeva came there, and Vasudeva just saw him, and he got attracted to Achyuta Preksha. And Achyuta Preksha just looked at him, and he got attracted to Vasudeva. And he was not understanding why he is attracted to him, but somehow that attraction was there. And it's mentioned that Achyuta Preksha is actually he was actually a bumblebee in the palace of the Pandavas. That's mentioned. And he would regularly receive prasad from Draupadi's lotus hands. So that particular bumblebee became Achyuta Preksha in this particular incarnation, in this particular place. And Achyuta Preksha's guru, when he was on his deathbed, it seems he told Achyuta Preksha that please try to propagate these principles of Vaishnavas. I want to do that. I want to defeat the philosophy of the monism and voidism. And please do that. This is my instruction to you. And some or the other, Achyuta Preksha and the other few followers, they could not understand how this can be done, because it was so rampant at that time. They somehow did not have that strength or ability to confront all these people, the impersonalists. So they were just wondering, and all the time it was like a prayer to him, that how can I do this? How can I do this? And it seems at that time in Ananteshwar temple, normally it would happen like this, that something has to be conveyed to him. Lord Ananteshwar would empower a person to come and speak to him. So at that time a person came in front of him and said, very soon I will send a person to you to fulfill the instructions of your spiritual master. And lo and behold, within few days, Vasudeva met Achyuta Preksha, and Achyuta Preksha then understood that this person probably is the one who is, Because when he was speaking to him philosophy, that time you could understand the child is not an ordinary child, that he had so much to learn. In fact, he in his mind accepted him as his guru. Externally, Vasudeva accepted Achyutapreksha, but in his mind, Achyutapreksha was accepting him as his guru. So, at that time, Vasudeva actually said, I want to take sannyas from you. And when this news reached his father, the father came to him running. He said, you can't do this. Because after so many years, we have got you, and we are old now, who will take care of us? So that time, Vasudeva said that I have already decided to, since I am not detached from all these worldly affairs, I have already decided to take to this order. But after so much of persuasion, he said, okay. He offered obeisances to him, the father. He said, see, this is a thing. Now you have offered obeisance to me. Elderly person can offer obeisance to younger only when the person is a sannyasi. So that means you are actually accepting me as a sannyasi. But then later on, he mentioned to him that I will not go till you have a child. So by his desire, Vedavati then later on became pregnant, and after he had a child, then Achyutapreksha decided to go and take sannyas. So it seems at the age of 10 or 12, Achyutapreksha gave him sannyas, and he was named as Purna Pragya, because he was so much of knowledge that he had. So his name is Purna Pragya, and as Purna Pragya, it seems that he just confronted so many Mayavadis, so many philosophies which were against Vaishnava philosophies, and Achyutapreksha becomes so happy that he is the person who is really going to take on all this imperialist and the voidists, and then he is the person who will actually establish this particular dharma. So it seems that once he wanted to go to take bath in Ganga, and Achyutapreksha did not want him to leave the place. He was praying intensely that I just don't want to be separated from him. And at that moment, the Ganges appeared and filled the lake there, which is right now known as Madhva Sarovar. So it seems every 12 years, the Ganga flows and fills up that. And, Purna Pragya took bath over there in Ganga. And at that time, Purna Pragya, he wanted to just go and take now a tour of South India. And when this was told to Achyutapreksha, he said, Achyutapreksha said, okay, maybe you should stay for some time, and after some time then you can go ahead. And when that time, Achyutapreksha installed him as the successor and named him as Ananda Tirtha at that time. So after few days, he just, it seems Anand Tirtha at that time defeated many such impersonalists like Buddhi Sagar. He was at that time a very renowned impersonalist. And Jains also, like there is one Vadisimha who was a Jainist. So he defeated him also. And then afterwards, he just was on his way about to leave for South India tour. And then during the South India tour, Achyutapreksha said, I would also like to come with you. And during that tour of South India, he just went to a place called as Vishnu Mangalam. Can I take another 10 minutes? Speak. So it said at Vishnu Mangalam, there he did something quite inhumanly. That is, having 100 bananas at one time, which were like 1.5, inch long, and huge ones, big ones. So, and at Ananta Padmanabh temple, there he gave lecture on Brahma Sutra, and that's where he established his Dvaitavad philosophy. And he established 5 principles of Dvaitavad. The number 1 is the difference between the differences in, how the Jiva is different from the Supreme Lord, the number 1. That the Jiva cannot be same as Supreme Lord. Jiva is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. The number 2 is that how the Supreme Lord is different from the matter. Supreme Lord is, always eternal, whereas the matter is immobile. How the Jiva is different from a Jiva. Like I am not you, you are not me. Jeva is different from the Jiva. And how the Jiva is different from the matter, like how the material body is different from the soul, and how the material, matter is different from the matter. That a tree has a particular function when it's in the forest, but then when it's cut and subjected to fire, it has a different quality. So this is what he actually established, Dvaita philosophy. That was one of his foremost contributions. And there, when he was at Ananta Padmanabh temple, very close by the Sringeri Mutt, and there he confronted Vidyasagar Shankar, the foremost Acharya of the Shankaracharya Mutt, and he defeated him completely over there. And at Srirangam, there he confronted the Brahmanas, and where there was a confrontation, and where he said that every word of Veda is equal to 3, has 3 meanings. Every word of Mahabharata has 10 meanings, and every word of Vishnu Sahasranama has 100 meanings. So the Brahman said, why don't you just explain like this? So he said, okay, let me explain. So the first word he took, okay, Vishwa. Vishwa means what? Vishnu. So the first meaning Vishnu is that because he penetrates the universe. Second meaning of Vishwa is because he is pervading the universe. Third meaning of Vishwa is because he is carried by Garuda. Fourth meaning of Vishwa is perfect in all. Fifth meaning of Vishwa is that because he empowers Vayu by being present in his heart as Paramatma. Like this, 100 meanings. Okay, next word, 100 means mesmerized everyone. Finished. So, like that he did. And then ultimately, then he left for Badrikashram, because he was told by his spiritual master that he should write a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, because he said, if you write, then it's like, one moon which will minimize all the stars. That means once you write, you don't have to just go on confronting everyone. Just one book will just establish all this philosophy and then completely defeat the impersonalism. So when he went Badrikashram, he just happened to meet Vyasdev over there, and Vyasdev helped him to write this Brahma Sutra. In fact, whatever he had written, the Gita Bhashya, Narana Rishi said that you are not written to the best of the capacity. You should write. So he stayed there for 48 days and he wrote. And then he came back again. On his way back, he just, met, it seems it said, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him the whole thing, whatever is to be done. And he said, when I come, I will be preaching this Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. But that he said, now you just keep it as a secret, don't tell this to. So he did not reveal this. But at the same time, Madhvacharya knew about it. And he said that, while he was back in Udupi, he knew that something good is going to happen. And while I was at Malpe beach, a boat got stuck. Madhvacharya, with the flow of his hand, some say with the flow of cloth, he just released it out and said that during that time the captain ship wanted to give something. So when he came to me, he's from Dwarka, so he said, please give me those locks of wood, the sandal wood which you have, Chandan. And then 50 men could not lift it, but Madhvacharya himself lifted those. And on his way, one broke. Balramji came out from this, installed very close to the beach. And the other one, we got it back to the temple. And there, he established the deity worship. And one of his contribution is the strict deity worship standards that he had set over here at Udupi Mutt. He did not build a very elaborate, temple here, because he did not want the temple to be bigger than the Ananteshwar temple or the Chandamauleshwar temple. But his contribution was that he actually, established those deity worship over there, strict deity worship, like, how many pujas, number of pujas the whole day, and he had those 8 principal disciples and established 8 mathas. And he said in pair, he instructed them that, you should worship them every 2 months and preach otherwise. But later on, Vadiraj, after a few years, over a period of time, he understood that 2 months very less. You cannot do much over there. Others cannot do much preaching also. If they go out and come, because there's no planes or flights that time that you can come and go and come back. If you go to preaching means you are out for many months. So then he started having every 2 years that that person comes in a rotation. They do it. So his 8 principal disciples, he just chose and made them in charge. Like Rishikesh Tirth, he made him in charge of one mutt, that is Palimar mutt. Then he made Narhar Tirth in charge of the Admer mutt. Then they made Janardhan Tirth in charge of the Krishnapur mutt. Then he made Upendra Tirth in charge of the Puttige mutt. Then he made Vaman Tirth in charge of Shirur mutt. And then Vishnu Tirth in charge of the Shode mutt. And then he made Ram Tirth in charge of the Kanur mutt, and Adoksha Tirth in charge of the Pejawar mutt. And this is how we did. And now what is happening is that they all worship the deities in Parya. That's called as Parya. Every 2 years they establish, they have worships where they chant verses, establish rituals and everything has been performed. And another thing about is that the Mool Ram, he wanted some or the other that Mool Ram deities. So when he was on his way back from Badrika Ashram, he was at Andhra Pradesh, and there he had a person, he met a person named as Narahari, who later on became his disciple, Narahar Tirtha, and he wanted to become a sannyasi. He wanted to dedicate his life, but somehow or the other he was told that you should go and get a Mool Ram deities. Now somehow to get a Mool Ram deities was not an easy thing, because that belonged to the king of Orissa. And Ikshvaku had given it to Dashrath, Dashrath had given it to Lord Ram, and Lord Ram had given it to Lakshman, and Lakshman had given it to a Brahmin who was staying at that time during Lord Ramchandra's reign, who would not eat till he sees Lord Ram. So one day he had fasted for almost like 10-15 days. So seeing that, Lord Ram told that you should give this deity to him. But after he is leaving the body, then the deity again came back to Lakshman. Lakshman gave it to Hanuman. Then Hanuman, in the Dwapar Yuga, when he met Bhim, he gave it to Bhim. Then the Pandavas had this in their study, and then Pandavas gave it to the king of Orissa, Shemakant at that time. And this remained with the king of Orissa. So Narhar Tirth actually went to this place, and at that time the king of Orissa left the body. And there was custom that the next person would be the son, but the son was quite young, so he could not take up the role of the king there. So somebody had to become a king. So there was a custom that an elephant with the garland would go around, and whoever the elephant garland, that person would be the king for some time, till the son grows up. So garlanded Narari, and Narari became the king for some time. He really took care of the kingdom for almost about 12-14 years or something like that. And when the child came to a respectable age where he can take over the kingdom, then Narari came. The child was very happy, asked, what do you want? He said, you give me that Mool Ram deities. And the Mool Ram deity was given to him. He accepted it. And then just few months before Madhvacharya left the body, the Mool Ram deity was given to him. So when he got it, he was very happy to receive them. And then he again installed in his ashram. And on this particular day, that while he was in Ananteshwar temple, Madhvacharya was sitting on his asan in Ananteshwar, and in the presence of his disciples, there was chanting going on, recitation of the Aitri Upanishad verses were going on. The celestial, heavenly abode, people were just showering flowers on him. And at that moment, he just left this planet. So this was on this particular day, in the bright fortnight of the month of Magh, on the 9th day that he left this world. So we owe a lot to Sripad Madhvacharya for his contribution, the tremendous contribution that he has made for all of us, so that we can practice these particular principles of Vaishnavism and chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय।